Hello, welcome. Welcome to the Astro Psyche. It is so good to have you here. And as usual, this is your weekly astrology forecast for next week for November 11th through the 17th. And gosh, what a week we've had. What a time we've experienced. And as I've been sitting with the astrology of this particular week and really sitting with the astrology of the coming months and even next year within the context of what has happened most recently in the US, I think that there's so much to unpack and explore and to say about the astrology that's coming up now that we know where we're at and that we're within this particular result post elections in the US. And I want to say, so I want to speak to this from that context. I want to talk about the astrology from the context of many folks who are experiencing a sense of deep fear, frustration, anger, despair. And a lot of what I have seen and heard, and even feeling this myself, there's sort of this sense of collective heaviness that seems to be very present, which I think has been sort of surprising to some people that the response feels more heavy and disheartening than we would expect. And so I think we can look at the astrology and we can make sense of this. And also, this is such a time where it is so important to be with what your actual experience is so that you can metabolize it and so that you can find a pathway through. And that feels really important. And there's so many different ways to do that. I think it's more important now than ever that we connect with each other, that we have a sense of safety and security and community. And that, of course, that's going to look like different things depending on your lived experience and your current situation. So we're going to talk about the astrology, but I also want to simply name that this is a very particular moment in time and that there are going to be experiences that you have. And a lot of this might involve hopelessness or fear, and that is valid. And how can we create space for you to have the experience that you are actually feeling while also finding ways for a support around that, and that from there can be a movement towards taking action in a way that feels in alignment for you. I think right now, though, there's so much to say for holding the experience of what is happening now. So I want to share with you just a very brief quote from the author Rebecca Solnit from her book Hope in the Dark that I think really embodies this collective experience and also the astrology of what's happening to sort of contextualize what's happening here from an astrological perspective. So she says, she talks about hope in this particular sentence. She says, hope is not about the belief that everything will turn out well, but the trust that something can be done no matter how bleak things may seem. And I like a lot of words that she has to say. And also, I feel this little part here about hope being not that like, oh yeah, everything's going to be great, it's going to be fine, but this like sense of trust that we can do something no matter how bleak things may seem. And I feel that especially in the astrology of this week, as we have Mercury making a square to Saturn this particular week. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about. So I hope that you'll hang in there with me. This week is going to be a little bit different because this just feels like a very important time period, and I want to really sit with the broader context as much as I can and we can here. Uh, so this particular week, we have Mercury in Sagittarius making a square to Saturn. Saturn is about our limitations and practicalities. Saturn can be a symbol of where we feel like there is no possibility or like the possibilities are limited. Saturn can sort of signify this experience of despair, depression, hopelessness, that there is no autonomy in a situation. That's sort of the more heavy aspect of Saturn. And then Mercury is the mind. Mercury is the thought process. It's our logical, analytical thinking. Mercury is also a symbol of thresholds and transitions and the paradoxical nature of reality, that something can be one thing as well as another thing. Now, that's happening this week, and also this week we're also entering into this broader theme of a Mercury Jupiter Saturn T-square. And this is essentially happening November through January. And I'm going to unpack this for you a little bit, but I will say the broader overarching themes with Mercury Jupiter Saturn are about thinking about hope and optimism and possibility, and then how to do that in a way that is practical, has endurance, focusing on our perception of what is possible to change, what we want to be working towards, what we want to work towards with an optimistic mindset, and how to have that sense of hope that also maintains a grounded practical reality, so that there is both this grounded Saturnian, like really settling into the containment and the structure of something, being in this material world, and then also bridging in the Jupiter, which holds possibility, which holds a sense of, I think Jupiter can really hold symbolism around trust. And trust is tricky because we need trust in order to get trust. And so, like, there's this sort of conundrum here, I think, with this T-square situation that involves really over the next several months exploring how it is that you can navigate this relationship to challenges, to restraints, to limitations, Saturn, how those, how to find a way to maybe find a sense of what feel like healthy, containing, loving boundaries with Saturn, and then connecting with Jupiter in a place of Saturn land, so to speak. And I'm also thinking about, too, within this, that Mercury is really a bridge maker. Mercury is the messenger. Mercury is the psychopomp. Psychopomp is a mythical figure who guides souls from one world to another. And so there is this guidance, this bridging, this being able to connect and to bring something from one thing to another. So those are some of the broader themes, again, that are November through January. And this is happening, so more at a practical, the nitty gritty details of this. This is happening over such a long period of time because Saturn is in Pisces. Jupiter is in Gemini. And so Jupiter, Saturn have been making a square throughout most of 2024. It's sort of been this kind of like background audio that we've been experiencing. And Mercury comes into Sagittarius to to oppose Jupiter and square Saturn, and this creates a T-square. So if this is like a little bit over, if this is like TMI, like don't worry, just let it sort of wash over you. So this particular week, Mercury is in the beginning parts of Sagittarius, and then it's going to continue to move forward in Sagittarius. It will first make a square to Saturn, which is this week. Mercury square Saturn, there's this component of it that has a tone of thinking seriously, thinking about commitments, thinking about the things that we're devoted to, thinking about our limitations, thinking about our responsibilities. And Mercury square Saturn, there's so much intellectual strength there, and also there can be a possibility of having like negative or hopeless kind of thinking. I don't even want to use the term negative, but sort of this like more falling into thoughts of that at a personal level. It could be thoughts of like I'm not good enough, or I can't do this, or I'm not enough, or I'm too much, like those kinds of things. There can be a sort of internalized negative critical self-talk. It can also be externalized as well. There can be a negative or a sort of critical, that's the word that I was looking for there, a sort of critical way of thinking. And Mercury will also eventually make a square to Neptune. It will eventually, before that actually, it'll make an opposition to Jupiter. And this is really important because Mercury is going to station retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius. And this is why this particular T-square is spanning so many months. So Mercury will station retrograde at 22 degrees of Sagittarius on November 25th. And Mercury will, after about 3 weeks or so, it will station direct. It will appear to move forward in the sign of Sagittarius, and it will not leave Sagittarius until January 8th. So we have a lot of time with Mercury, the mind, the thought process, the communication, the way of Mercury is also our ability to make and find meaning in something. And so I think over the next several months, there's really this process of intellectually digesting, intellectually understanding, and exploring at so many different levels, because we have Mercury encountering Saturn, which is our thought process around our limitations, our responsibilities, the boundaries that we create, the boundaries that we encounter, and navigating that. We also have Mercury opposite Jupiter over this next many months, which is about navigating our relationship to expansion and contraction, and especially themes around hope, optimism, themes around possibility, themes around generosity, themes around the multitude of possibilities. I think Mercury opposite Jupiter can also simply be having a lot on your mind, a lot of ideas, a lot of like Jupiter is so much about possibility, and so Mercury opposite Jupiter, there's this theme of it can be like being very inspired by all of the possibilities. It can also be being overwhelmed by all of the possibilities. And let's see, what else do I want to say about this? So other components of this is that this week, so this week of November 11th through the 17th, Saturn will station direct. And this is also a big deal too, because Saturn has been retrograde for the last many months. Saturn is typically retrograde about 6 months out of the year. So it happens very often And let's see, so Saturn will station direct this week at about 12 degrees of Pisces. And so Saturn will astrologically be going forward in the sign again. So this is also a symbol of the themes around limitations, restrictions, containment, responsibilities, devotions, the things that we are committed to is a Saturn territory. All of these things are, rather than being more introverted, internalized, there's a moving forward. And so this is also a component of the next several months. And I think that what this may look like for you over the next many months is this finding a way through situations that maybe feel challenging, feel overwhelming, and how to connect with a reliable sense of autonomy, choice, possibility, and how to feel like you can maintain a sense of alignment with your values and what feels possible for you. I think this is also a big theme, like what is possible for you. And so more immediately this week, the emphasis is really on Mercury and Saturn together. So this like thinking, making meaning, thought processes. Mercury and Sagittarius, there's this exploratory nature to it. Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign. Mutable signs, there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of possibility and paradox. Mutable signs are about, so it's interesting because mutable signs are, were originally called the double bodied signs, like in that there is a duality there. And I find that the way that mutable signs are expressed in our lives now, there tends to be, it's less about duality and it feels more about multiplicity to me. Like that there are many different things that can be in existence at once. And so I think that Mercury and Sagittarius especially reminds us of this because Mercury itself is about multiplicity. It's about like really holding space for many different things and for sort of like hopping around to many different things. So there's this kind of, this is the vibe, right? This week, there's this like a lot that you may be thinking about. And also, Saturn wants us to, let's see, I want to rephrase that a little bit because I don't know that Saturn wants us to do anything, but I think that when we experience Saturn, there is a desire to feel a sense of containment, to encounter our relationship to boundaries and to limitations and to work within those. And my hope for you this week is to find a sense of working with Mercury Saturn via meeting difficult experiences and then working through them. So like really finding the way out through the experience. And I think with Saturn, this sort of involves this simultaneous accepting what is so that you can do something about it. And so it's like there's this component where it's not quite surrender and like, all right, I can't do anything. It's not quite that. It's like, okay, this is like Saturn is about the physical realities that we cannot change, but then also taking responsibility for what we can and like kind of questioning where we have a choice and where we don't have a choice and finding your sense of choice and autonomy, even if it's not something that you wish to have, like finding your voice, finding your choice. Okay, so those are my thoughts about that. As I'm saying this, I wonder how this is sitting with you, what is coming up for you as you are hearing me describe this astrological signature. What is also happening this week as well is we have a full moon in Taurus. And so this full moon is particularly interesting to me because it is so closely conjunct Uranus. So it's very close together in the sign of Taurus with Uranus. This full moon is happening on Friday, November 15th. It's exact at 1:28 p.m. Pacific time at 24 degrees of Taurus. And Uranus is at 25 degrees of Taurus, so it's just about a degree away. It's very close. And then, of course, we have the sun in Scorpio at this time. This is creating this full moon phenomenon. And so full moons are this time of culmination. They can be a time of really seeing everything in full view. We take what's happening in the sky symbolically. And so in the sky, we can see the moon. We can see what has been hidden. The moon is a symbol of our emotions, our intuition, our instinctual nature, the personal unconscious. And so there is more that is coming to light over the course of this week. And then there's this peak culmination of what is being known and seen and becoming more aware of. Now, at a more practical level, this can just be really feeling more of your feelings. And especially, I think, this particular moon, there's this phenomenon around maybe that you may feel more aware of something that you hadn't realized in a way that maybe it's surprising or shocking to you, like, oh, like I didn't know that I felt that way or thought that, or like connecting the dots on something around your life, your lived experience. This is sort of the Uranus element to it. And I will say also that I am hosting a full moon circle this Friday, the 15th at 6 p.m. Pacific time. If you are interested in coming together in community to honor this full moon, I would absolutely love to have you there. You can find out more about it on my website, theastropsyche.com. And so the other component of this full moon is that it is ruled by Venus. Taurus is ruled by Venus. And Venus is just freshly changing into the sign of Capricorn this particular week. So Venus moves from Sagittarius into Capricorn on Monday the 11th. And Venus is a symbol of our relationships. It's a symbol of women, feminine people, maternal people, feminine issues. It's a symbol of love, beauty, aesthetics, the things that we find pleasing and soothing in our lives. And Venus will be in Capricorn not too long, just from November 11th through December 7th. And so during this time, there is a Capricorn sort of focus, a Capricorn channeling of Venusian energy. Capricorn is about practicality, it's about security and safety in the physical world. And so there's this element of practical relationship matters, especially coming to the forefront during this whole time that Venus is in Capricorn, but especially around the full moon, because the moon is hearkening back to Venus. There's also this component of, I think, healing in relationships in a way that is very real world, practical, and it may look like connecting with people who feel safe for you, looking at the ways in which you feel a sense of security and safety in relationships, looking at the practical ways that you can connect with other people. That is really, I think, a core component of this particular Venus in Capricorn and this full moon in Taurus. And the full moon being so close to Uranus, there is this surprise element to it. So Uranus is the unexpected, Uranus is the unconventional. It is about radically innovating something and doing something totally different. And so I think that we can create a space for this energy by considering what it is that we can do to sort of channel that unexpected or that innovative energy. And then also just be up for something to unexpectedly occur. And it might be very subtle. So that's something to sort of just keep in mind as we move towards Friday. Now, let's see. Those are the things that I wanted to talk about for this particular week. I'm going to pull some cards for you. And so, again, always love hearing how you're doing, how this is sitting with you, what comes up for you. And I think those are things to take seriously. What comes to mind as you're hearing the energies as we talk about them. And so to take this into another layer, now is the point where you can, as best you can, find a place to draw your energy, your attention inward. You can do this through closing your eyes or focusing on a place in front of you that feels soothing. As I'm shuffling the cards, you can focus on your breath or your body or any sounds, and allow yourself to feel relaxed, feel aware, and to feel present here in this place. And imagining yourself within a beautiful sphere of light. The light can be golden light or any other color that feels right for you right now. And now is also a wonderful time to invite in the presence and support of your spiritual guidance team, ancestors, any deities or presence that you find resonates for you. Ask that they are here with you now to help you, to support you, to guide you, and to communicate with you in a way that you can easily understand right now. Okay. All right, so I'm pulling 3 cards, and you may wish to pick a number between 1 and 3 to have that card be special to you. Okay. I will tell you why I laughed. So one card in here we got last week, which I think is very interesting. So the first card is the Two of Pentacles, and I pulled this reversed. This is the Wild Unknown Tarot deck. And in this card, there is a black and white butterfly. Could be a moth. It looks like a butterfly, more so though. And there are 2 pentacles on either side of the lower wings, and there is a rainbow colored infinity symbol encircling these 2 pentacles. And I'm really particularly drawn to that infinity symbol. It sort of feels like it's hugging the pentacles, and it feels really sweet. Whereas, and it also feels very in stasis to me, like it feels still, like a still hug versus a movement to it. And I will say the Two of Pentacles tends to be about juggling things, holding different things, deciding between different things. There's sort of this like natural duality, this or that, but there's sort of like a holding um, in Jungian psychology thought this would be correlated to holding the tension of the opposites, and that there are two possibilities or options or ways of being that one is holding, and then we're not really deciding to go into one or the other. We're sort of like holding the possibility of both. And I feel that with this card. I feel this like holding the tension. Um, and so that may be where you're at right now. I don't know, especially since this is the first card. I did pull it reversed. And so that it's reversed tells me that maybe there's a little bit more of confusion around it, that maybe things feel a little topsy-turvy. Maybe it feels like I'm thinking about the butterfly like flying down, like almost swooping down. And so there might be this, like maybe this is the element of Saturn. It feels very Mercury Saturn to me, actually. And so how can we like this possibility of like holding and deciding and discerning. Mercury Saturn is really about discerning, and how can that be like a supportive hug versus feeling like you're flipped around. Okay, so that's the first card. The second card is the Father of Wands. Father of Wands is, in this deck, is also correlated to the King of Wands in the traditional Smith Waite deck. And we got this card last week, so I think that's very interesting. And in this card, there's an image of a cobra snake, and it's like sitting up. It's sort of loosely coiled, and there's a wand that's like that's sort of like strike up as well, and then there's a red and orange and almost green thunderbolt that is striking in the background. And so this card in this particular context to me is about this sense of vitality, and maybe I said this last week, but I'm going to say it again, is this sense of vitality, initiative. Like there's such a sense of like really sitting up and being active in this card. Like the snake is, it's not striking, but it's like it's up and it's aware and it's paying attention. It's sort of like taking things in. It's not a sleeping snake, but it's also not like an attacking snake, if that sort of makes sense. And I'm also thinking about the Father of Wands. And in this particular deck, the artist chose to use the family system for the court cards rather than a court system. And so I think we can think of the Father of Wands as a paternal figure, especially paternal figures around, and like when I say the paternal, I mean paternal figures maybe literally in your life, but also like the inner paternal figure, which is connected with Saturn, the sun as well, but also really Saturn, that archetypally paternal figures, we sort of assign these themes around protection and security and safety and a sense of like uh, material strength out in the world. And of course, also adding in whatever paternal figures mean to you. But I'm just sort of like really struck by like thinking about the paternalness of this, and especially how we um, embody our sense of being like the inner paternal figure, the internalized sense of this, what this snake represents, which is standing up, being aware, paying attention, and the Father of Wands, the King of Wands, there's this theme around being having an influence, having an impact, and doing so from a place of emotional security. The wands are also very connected to creativity and passion and fire and our ability to act from enthusiasm. So this is like so those are some of the themes that are coming through in this particular card. And so sort of like bringing this in, it's this like holding space for multiplicity, and then from that springs something around like this innovation or ability to act or to do something or to be aware, to be an impact, to be in a leadership role in some way. Now the last card is the Nine of Cups. And the Nine of Cups, if I'm taking this psychologically, feels like having emotional regulation to me. Um, the nine is a card that tends to symbolize, it feels very full moon like actually to me. It symbolizes a sense of culmination, things coming together, like all of the efforts that you have been efforting over a long period of time, there are the results of that. And this card tends to be, especially around feeling satisfied, feeling fulfilled. And I feel like this is this is almost like the desire card of whatever it is that's happening right now. And so I feel like maybe you're here at the Two of Pentacles and there's a desire to be at the Nine of Cups. It's like there's this wondering, questioning, decisioning, and like in that there is this connecting with a sense of strength inside of yourself, whatever that may look like. And then from there comes this sense of sturdy, stable, emotional, could be emotional regulation, could be emotional satisfaction in some way. And so that's what I have to say for this particular week. I am wishing you well. I'm wishing you comfort and safety and anything else that you need in order to exist this week. And I will see you next week. All right. Take care. Bye.